Hello and welcome to Authentic Networking. This is a collaboration over competition approach to building relationships that co-create success. Welcome. Hi, I am your host and teacher for this series, Izzy Nally. I have an MBA, which I think really the bulk of where I learned this was really in pursuing my goals. Once I got my MBA and I really started pursuing networking, I realized that there was something off, that there was something that didn't feel good. And I would occasionally go to a networking event where it did feel good. And most of those were really focused on building relationships, and it was really about collaboration. Once I really started infusing collaboration into what I did and focusing on co creating success, I started noticing that we were able to do more. And it allowed me to start thinking bigger and really thinking in not a childish way, but in the childish way of how we have so much hope and we can think so much bigger and we're not limited by fear. And so, how can we bring that more playfulness, that more inspired, motivated way of making an impact in the world while building relationships and having fun and feeling lit up when you're doing these? So, this is where authentic networking and research and reading and doing trainings has really led to this training. So today is lesson 7, and this is actually section 2. So we just wrapped up section 1. You can still catch those, don't worry. And in section 2, we're really talking about building a relationship action plan. Now, each week, each lesson has action steps for you to take and implement for that week. Today, specifically, we are going to develop your MTP. We're going to dive into that, but it's your massively transformative purpose. So I do recommend that you have a notebook. And if you cannot do this during this time, please come back to this video, pause it, write and journal on these activities, because this is what's really going to lay the foundation for the remaining portions of this course. All right. So let's dive in. Again, this is a collaboration over competition approach. If you know anything about me and Holly, or Holly and I, we have the WOA network, which we are working on taking national, and Louisville is our hub where we are putting into practice and building out our processes. And we really want to bring more of this collaboration over competition approach to entrepreneurship, to friendships, to networking, to community building, so that we can really elevate our communities while elevating the individuals as well. And so that's where this individual work must come into play. So today we're talking about what really motivates you in your actions. Why? Why do we need to talk about this when we're talking about authentic networking? Because the goal of this program, of this training, is not just for you to develop your career or develop your business, but how can you make an impact while doing it? How can you make an impact on individuals, other businesses, and the community as a whole while we do that? And if you are going to do that, there's many different lanes and avenues in which you can take this approach. And we want to make sure that you are doing it in what lights you up and fuels you. Why? Because, well, let's face it, it's going to take energy, it's going to take fuel to keep the momentum going, because just a one-time little thing is not what is really going to make an impact in your life, as well as with where you want to make your impact at. So, what we need is to make sure that you have the fuel that lights you up, so that when you wake up in the morning, it's not the snooze, 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 hit the snooze button over and over. It's that you look forward to getting out of bed because you're looking forward to what you're doing. It gives you energy, it gives you the motivation, the purpose behind the actions that you are taking. So I ask you, and please comment, but tell me, like, what really lights you up? What What really fuels you? What excites you? What makes you feel like you look forward to those days? Maybe and it's more than just, oh, it's Friday because it's almost the weekend. But really it's like, oh, I look forward to Wednesdays because I have this group meeting and we're working on this big project and this project excites me. That you would easily volunteer your time to go do that, but and it's just amazing that you would even get paid for it if you're a business owner or if it's your career. So, thinking about this, let's dive through some questions so that we can help you really answer this question. All right, so let's start with something a little more broad and then we're going to narrow in. What are your real passions? What lights you up and gets you moving? Maybe it's even like, oh, I love girls' nights, or maybe it is, I love golfing with my buddies, or what is it that really lights you up? And this is not trying to fit anything in a box. This is anything and everything that really lights you up. That if I could wave my magic wand and you could have this perfect life of all your favorite things, what would that look like? I love that. So someone said, seeing my clients have those epiphanies and making transformations. Yes, me too. I love when people have those like aha moments or they get a big win. I love that because a win for them is a win for me as well. So I completely hear that. And the third question is like, what opens your heart up? Like, what just makes you melt? Maybe like I love teaching children's yoga and I love teaching silver sneakers and I love doing these things. I also love doing hypnosis. And so I've really pulled all of these things that I really truly love. So we have here, I've got two screens going on, so I'm trying to make sure that I can show these for you. So music, self-care, helping, coaching clients, hanging out with my hubby and little boy, bonfires. Yes. And so as you write all of these things down, it's amazing. And I love doing this for people. So if you need to jump on a call with me, please do. But I love where we can piece all of these things together. And it's like, what if you had, and I'm just throwing this out, like women's circles or family circles where you gather and you listen to music and you talk about how to take care of yourself and how to take care of your family. Like, wouldn't that be an amazing thing that you could get paid for while you get to do it? And it enhances your family. So, checking in with what feels good for you. And so, we have another one, helping people who have a history of addiction opens my heart. Yes, me too. Me too. Because we are transforming families, we are transforming so much when we do that. And we love talking about multi-passionate entrepreneurs because so many of us have a nonprofit that lights us up. We have some mission work that lights us up. And then we also have our career. And there's something about our career that lights us up. And what if we can weave all of that together? And it doesn't have to be full time if you're like, oh, I don't know if I could do that all the time. But what if you could weave it together to do maybe 2 or 3 events a year that were just inspiring you and it's all building up to these events? There's so many opportunities out there where we can combine and we can collaborate even within our own worlds of like we have all these other people and these different businesses and nonprofits that we can collaborate our interest together as well. So making sure that you write those down, list those all out, and list out right now, like get your notepad, your paper, and just start listing these out. And I love it. You comment and then you can come back and write them down too. But have these so that you have this master list and it is reworkable. You can come back and maybe later today you're like, oh yeah, I need to add that to the list too. Because as we get really rooted into this foundation, we are grounded into this. It allows us to have this beautiful soil that we can then plant our seeds and they can actually grow. Now, the work that we're going to continue to do is to water and maintain that garden. But here we are really saying, like, where am I going to put my garden at? Where in the yard am I going to put this garden? So, really thinking about this. Now, let's dive in a little deeper. where are you coming from? So noticing, and it might be a couple of these, it might be one of these, but what is really motivating you to want to be here, to want to participate in this training, to want to enhance your life? So are you wanting to maybe leave a legacy by being a business owner or an entrepreneur? Are you wanting to develop your career? And it's okay to say, like, I just want to feel successful. I just want to hit this dollar amount. That's okay. There is no shaming, there is no wrong answer here. Maybe it's giving back. Maybe you're like I want to leave an impact. And this can be different depending on which stages of life we are in as well. So when we are pre-children, when we have children, when we're post-children, maybe we're in retirement, each one of these can be different, and it's okay to transition, but we need to know where we are right now. Right now. And we're going to dive into this a little more where we can really think about, like, where am I in the next 10 years or within this 10-year section? And therefore, we can look at, like, where can I really make an impact in 3 years? This might be, you might just be in survival mode, and it might be more than survival mode, but it's just like, I just need to survive. I just need to provide for my family. I just need to be here. And caution that, but if it really does light you up and it really is the root of your motivation, then that is okay. That is beautiful. If that is one of your core values, but just make sure that it's not coming from this like scarcity and survival. And then there's this social aspect. Maybe you're like, I just need friends. I just need to be with people. And this, again, if it comes back to one of your core values and socializing and having community, that might be the motivation for you. And there might be hidden or more motivation within each one of these were packets that are unfolding as well. So be really clear about, like, what is it that you want to focus on? Now, another caution in this is, again, that 10-year mark. You might say, I also want to work on my legacy, but maybe that's closer to the end of the 10 years. Or I really want to focus on the giving back, but that's really, that's going to be in another phase of life. So make sure that you are in this phase of life and what you can really truly focus on and also lights you up right now. All right. So, oh, yes. So she said, screenshotting things you wrote to save it. Perfect. Now, I do recommend, and you all know that I am into manifestation as well, and as well as how the brain and the body work together. And there is real science behind it, but moving something out of the mind, the non-physical, into the physical is a beautiful activity that is very, there's a lot of science behind it. I can't think of it at the moment, but writing it out onto the paper and getting that movement and taking it into action is important. So make sure that you do that as well. All right. So MTP, massively transformative purpose. So massively meaning that it's going to stretch you just a little bit. It is going to make you take yourself to the next level. Transformative, meaning it might transform you. It might transform the people you're going to be working with. It might be transforming the community, but there is some transformation that is happening. Now, when we look at purpose, this can be a loaded word. I'm fully aware. But really, this purpose is what I find is on your heart, is on your heart. And whether you are religious or spiritual or not, I believe that that is on our heart for a reason, that has been placed on us. And I typically use the word divine, and divine means like of something higher, of God or of higher power or something bigger, whether you want to believe that's the collective or just your community. So it's being placed on your heart for a reason. And by denying what's on our heart, we are denying that there is a bigger purpose. So checking in with that, because a lot of times what I see as a therapist is people tend to believe that they're not enough, or that they're not good enough, that they're not big enough, that they aren't worthy enough. And to know that you are worthy because you have the desire. Well, I'll get off my soapbox for a moment, but really, please, if that is something where you're just like, I don't know if I can, know that you can, or it wouldn't be there to begin with. All right. All right. So I love some of the terms that come along with this. There's a couple different teachers that I've heard where it's like your moonshot, where it's like you're aiming for the stars and you land at the moon. So something really big for you. What will allow you to have an impact? To have an impact, maybe it's on your family. Maybe it's on the corporate world that you're in or in the career path that you're on. Maybe it's in the industry of where you serve in entrepreneurship or business owner. So allowing it to be massive, transformative, and have purpose. So as we create your MTP, this is based on teachings from Peter Diamandis. I believe I'm saying it right. So we want to focus on these two categories first. One is who. Who are you going to have an impact on? And this is not like severe niching or anything like that. It's really like, who are you going to have an impact on? Because I guarantee that there are pockets of individuals. As we said, maybe it's, we want to have an impact on those who are in recovery of some sort. Maybe you want to work with children. Maybe you want to work with families. Maybe you want to work within a specific industry. There are multiple layers of people that are being impacted, but as we can start to define that, you can start with, if you need to, who it's not going to impact, because I guarantee that there are people that you are not going to be focusing on. So this can allow us to get out of people-pleasing mindset. This can allow us to focus, because even if you go, for example, to a networking event and you're talking about what you do, something that I used to do, because I used to be a chronic people pleaser, and I really mean that. When you're at an event and you're talking about what you do, you don't need to change what you do to cater to the person that you're talking to if they are nowhere near who you actually work with. Because what that's actually doing is creating confusion, and it's going to take you off track of your purpose. Now, there's a difference between catering the message to someone that you can help and catering that so that they can understand it. I'm talking about when you work with businesses and suddenly you're talking about working with an individual, and you typically don't work with individuals. You can, and you're in scarcity trying to get that job or trying to get that contract, when rather you could talk about who you work with, what you're passionate about, what you really do, and their best friend, their sister, their whoever might be the perfect person you need to talk to. And by going into people pleasing, by going into scarcity, we just shrunk ourselves and we missed out on an opportunity. So as we get really clear on our on this foundation, we want to know who we impact, who we're serving, what we're really working towards, what problem you solve or want to solve. And as we focus on that and we get really clear about it and we get strong in it so that we are unwavering, and that doesn't mean not having flexibility, but it means like literally one day I'm doing this, the next day I'm doing that, and no one really knows what you're doing. I used to be the queen of this. So I say that because you need to be really strong. And I can also say this because I did this for a long time too, is listening to what other people said and allowing them to pull me off track because they were like, oh, well, that's not going to work. When you are focused on what you're really doing and you've had the conversations and you've done the research and you've done the market research, which is what you're doing by building authentic relationships as well, these conversations is how we grow, or how we grow. And so you're allowing yourself to do the research, to mold and shape, but not that we're going to go, oh, well, let me put this project down. I'm going to go over here. Then I'm going to put this project down and I'm going to go over here. But instead we're going, oh, I can take a piece of this and bring it in. I can take a piece of this and bring it in. And I can share this and I can share that, rather than just being all over the place and nothing ever really comes to fruition. Does that make sense? All right. So moving on to our next, we're going to dive in even deeper. Identifying the what. Now, this is the first bit, and then we're going to dive into some further questions. So first I ask you to write down the top 3 problems that you're most excited to solve. Are these personal problems? Are these community problems? Is this a workplace problem? Like, what is it that you want to solve? And so these first 3 are what we are going to then ask questions of as we move through. So we have to have these first 3. If you're like, I'm not sure, that's okay. You can listen, you can tune in and come back. That's okay as well. And then we're going to go through this once. So you're going to need to go through this with each one of those 3. All right. So I am going to present to you 6 questions. With each of those 6 questions, you are going to rate it from 1 to 10 for that first one. Okay, so your 3 problems. So problem 1, we're going to go through all 6 questions. We're not going to go through this on each one because that's going to make your brain bounce around. And we want to really dive into one problem at a time. So problem number 1, we're going to go through these 6 questions and we're going to rate them from 1 to 10, 1 being lesser of an impact, 10 being a larger of an impact. You can also journal on these questions too, but focus on the 1 to 10. So at the end of your life, you had made a significant dent in this area. How proud would you feel? 1 to 10. Given the resources that you have today, what level of impact could you make within the next 3 years if you solved this problem? 1 to 10. Give yourself a rating. Given the resources and impact that you have in the next 10 years, what level of impact could you make in this 3-year period? So we're just making you think a little bit bigger. I know that question can be a little like, huh? So if you expected all of these resources in the next 10 years, if you were thinking like 10x style, if you believed you had everything you needed, what level of impact do you think you can make in the next 3 years versus before is what you just have today? How well do you understand this problem? Could you go through all of the who, what, when, where, why, how, and really detail a story and know people that you can get stories from as far as what this problem is and understanding the problem and the impact that it's making on a physical, emotional, mental level of this impact? How does that impact then have a ripple effect? So answering 1 to 10. How emotionally charged or excited about this are you? 1 to 10. And if you had to like, oh, I'm not sure, then it probably wasn't a 10. Will this problem get solved with or without you involved? And you might say, yes, but it might take longer. Or no, no one's doing anything about this and I'm not really sure why. Where is this at on a scale of 1 to 10? And this one is kind of like, you might also like circle with or without. You might write with and you might write without. All right, so we're going to calculate this total and we're going to add up all of these scores. The bigger the number on each one of these, so again, you're going through problem 1, problem 2, and problem 3. This is going to let you know without like overthinking about it and trying to sway it, just to honestly go through each one. You're going to add them up at the end and you're going to see which one is bigger for you. And then ask yourself, when you look at all of these and which one has the highest score, does that feel right for you? And it's okay if the answer is no, because the point of this is to get you to have that awareness that like, ooh, I was actually hoping it was that one. And if that's it, then go with the one where your heart is lit up. So this is where it's just helping you make that decision so that you can be really clear and so that you can choose. And it doesn't mean that you can't ever do those other things, but which one is going to be your focus and your foundation where you can really truly commit yourself? Because if we have conditional commitment versus unconditional commitment, how we show up will be very different. So conditional commitment goes, well, I'll do it if it fits these scenarios. And as soon as it doesn't fit those scenarios, then I quit. That's conditional. versus unconditional means I'm committed to this no matter what roller coaster is put in front of me. I'm going to make this happen. I am claiming it and I am committing to it. That's the difference between those two. All right. So this is where we end today. This is extremely important that you have this worked out, that you have this like, okay, this is what I'm really going to work on. Because as we dive in next week, we're going to really look at like, how do we break these down? How do we set some goals? Who do we need to be in contact with and develop these relationships with as we develop this relationship action plan? Because as we develop the relationship action plan, if we are not clear about this, what we did today, then we'll be like, well, maybe this, maybe that. And what is that? That's conditional. It's lack of clarity. We want the clarity so that we can truly make the next actions and going, yes, I need to write this book and I need to get these stories. And these are the people I need to talk to get these stories. And this is what I'm going to do. And this is when I'm going to get it done by. And being able to like fully go into that direction. All right. So let's see. 10, 10, 10, 4. No one's gonna do it like me. I love that. Trusting God to handle it. Yes. And that's exactly right. I love that attitude. The one that you don't heavily pursue, there is a level of trust. There's a level of trust. And maybe it comes up in a conversation in the future and going, I had thought about that. I'm so glad that it was your purpose to take that on. And maybe it's inspiring someone else that is lighting them up. Maybe it's running through these questions with them and inspiring them to make it their foundation. That you're trusting that someone else can pick up that baton so that they can, or baton, that baton, so that they can carry it forward. That you don't have to do it all. You just have to listen to what's been put on your heart, that what lights you up, so that what is your desires, that desires can be a beautiful thing that leads us forward. So if you are one of those people that it's like, oh, I keep wanting to do this and I just keep putting it off to the side, but it's the thing that just keeps coming up for me, then maybe it's time that we stop and we tune in and we really do listen to that purpose that we've been ignoring and really step into it, because you can do everything that lights you up. It might be in phases, and you can ask yourself, what's in your phase right now? What is your MTP? What can you leave the legacy, make the impact, serve your family, serve your community? How can you show up for it all? So thanks for joining me today. This is lesson 7. Next week, we are diving into really creating our relationship action plan. So I hope you'll join me there. You can catch up on these if you've missed any. We did some mindset and some foundations, but we still had actions for each and every lesson 1 through 6. So you can go to Izzy Nally Consulting, or I'll post the link under here as well, and you can sign up for it in the course platform, or you can just go to YouTube and you can look up those as well. All right, I'll see you next week.